All right, let's see. Maybe we did this yesterday, but maybe for those that might not have been here yesterday, Roman, what is your background? How did you get started in this industry again?
Yeah, so I've got started in the drafting side of things. I realized yesterday that I didn't talk much about that. I got started in drafting by taking some night classes while I was still working full time. And what kind of prompted that was I wanted to get into project management. And at the shop that I was working at, the project managers did all of their own drafting. And I needed to know how to do that. I knew technical drafting, but I didn't know AutoCAD. So I started taking some night classes at the community college and learning how to do some drafting. And while I was there, they said, they showed me a list of all the classes that I could take. And I was like, man, I know all of this stuff just from being in the industry already. And so I just stuck around and toughed it out for a little bit longer and ended up getting a couple of handful of certificates and a degree. But yeah, so I started drafting for the company that I was at, and decided I didn't want to do any project management, and they had no room for a drafter project manager. So I went to another company where I was more of a machine tech / drafter, and then that's where I learned Microvellum. Started on version 6.7, and they shortly after that changed to version 7, and the rest is history from there. Here I am.
Awesome.
That was in 2012. So I've got clear on the dates now that I started drafting in.
Awesome. And so for the last couple of years, you are now a certified service provider, and it's great to have you part of the team.
Yeah, great to be a part of the team. Yeah, I love it here.
All right, well, let's queue up. Looks like we got a few more people joined us today. We are about to get into the next topic here of custom cabinet configuration. So let's go ahead and turn things over to Roman, and we can get started.
All right, so I don't have anything pre-laid out today. Yesterday, I took some overall geometry and created some spaces to make my drawing. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to create my product in a separate drawing, and this is just going to be separate of the product. And then I'm going to save it back to my library so that I could insert that into a different drawing as I want. So first thing I'm going to do here, well, let's get a lay of the land. What I want to do is I want to create an oven cabinet to insert into the project that, for those of you that were able to see it, the project that Amy was still working on, she had a placeholder in there for an oven cabinet, and I'm going to create that cabinet that's going to replace that product. So what I want to do first is get my overall dimensions, cut sizes, my cut sheet that I'm going to need to create this cabinet to build around our oven. So I have it up on my other screen here. You can't see it. There it is. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab a quick snippet of this information here. So this is what I'm building around. If you're on a Windows platform, everybody has the snipping tool. I use it so frequently that I have it included on my taskbar down there at the bottom. So once I have this clipped with this, I don't have to do anything else with that. I could go right back to my drawing space, and because it's copied to the clipboard, as soon as I cut it, I could come back in here and do me a Control V and drop that baby right inside of this drawing. So now I have all of that information in here. I don't need this to be this big. I could have inserted it improperly. I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch. That seems to look fine. All right, so I want a cabinet. I know the dimension of my cabinet. Well, let's say that I don't know the dimension of my cabinet. I'm going to create a 32-inch wide or a 34-inch wide cabinet, and then I'm going to insert it into another project. And through doing that, I'm going to find out that I need to change that size. So we're going to do some things to make this parametric also when we create it, that we could use it in any other project. And it's not specifically designed to be limited into a single space. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to take that information and apply it. So I'm going to come to my draw tile down here, select if you're doing frameless, you want to do this in frameless, face frame, self-explanatory. And inside of our appliance cabinets, we have this 4-door oven cabinet. I'm going to take that and place that in my workspace here. All right, and through experience, I know that what some of the other sizes that I need, but if I didn't, or if it was questionable, whenever I launch my interface here, I would move this to the side just a little bit so that I could see this, and of course I would have that zoomed in a little bit. But like I said, I know that I'm going to make that to be 34 inches. I'm going to leave my height and my depth to be the same. I'm not going to include a wall filler or anything. Like I said, I'm saving this product back to the library, so I don't want I don't want to pigeonhole myself into having to make additional changes in the future. And that will be the same for the left finished in and the right finished in. But what I do know, and I'm going to make this a little more specific for this cabinet, is I do want some standard dimensions inside of that opening. Because this is a 4-door open base, and if you take a look at the picture behind me there, you'll see that I've got 2 doors on the top half, or the top third, and 2 doors on the bottom third. And this is where we control what is the interior components inside of both of those. Today, I'm going to set both of these to none. In previous days, we set these to, for the top one, to have adjustable shelves. But we're going to change this up just a little bit, and we're going to do something different up on the top half of, or the top third of our product also. Not going to do anything to change my door options. I am going to make this have a 3/4 inch back, so I'm going to change my thick back selection there. And here in the oven options, we have a prompt that says split oven. If I were doing a wall oven and a microwave as 2 separate appliances, this is where I would probably want to use this. But since I know that the appliance that I'm using is a single appliance that has the microwave integrated into it, I'm going to deselect that. So for the oven height above floor, I'm going to say that I want this to be 24 inches off of the floor. I want my oven opening height to be, I believe, 43.5 inches. Yes, 43.5 inches. The space above the oven, we'll just say 1.5 inches. What I'm going for here is 1.5 inches all the way around, 1.5 inches on the side, the top, and the right. The space between ovens, this would be utilized if you had this split oven selected there. And then my oven opening width, I'm going to call that 28.5. And for me, this is good enough for now. I'm going to get this puppy drawn and get us a product in there. Now, many of you may have found this out already, but something that I continue to forget as much as I use this is that I forget to turn my visual style here from conceptual to 2D drawing. It takes a little more RAM for your computer to be able to process and draw 3D solids than it does for 2D drawings. So many of you may have experienced that your machine lags just a little bit more whenever you have conceptual turned on. So you may want to take note that turning that to 2D drawing or 2D wireframe as your visual style will help with that speed, that redraw process. Okay, so we have our oven. You can see that we have a frame, an oven frame going all the way around there, empty up on top and empty up on bottom. So what I want to do here is I want to put a cookie sheet shelf, some dividers down here on the bottom so that we can store cookie sheets vertically. I want to put a rollout down here right next to that. And up on top, I want to do something with an adjustable shelf on one side, and on the opposite side, let's say that they were going to keep some wine or some bottles of liquor inside of their break room here. Or whatever, bottles of anything, don't have to be liquor. All right, so what I want to do is I want to come back inside of my product here. And in my interior component of my top half, I should have left that. I think why this is slowing down, I've been digging into this, I think why this is slowing down is where I have my library installed at. All right, so here's my oven options. Nope, I didn't do that. All right. All right, so what I want to do is I want to insert a splitter inside of my top half and inside of my bottom half here. So to get to our splitters, I need to do that again. So inside, to access our subassemblies to insert into our products, there are two ways to access it from our prompts interface here. The first one would be up here in the top left-hand corner. You have a main tab, and the second place to access that, or a menu tab, and the second place to access that would be just by right-clicking anywhere. You would get the same drop-down list. So I'm going to insert my or select my subassembly there, and I want to locate my opening splitters. Over here on the left-hand side, you see all of the subassembly library, all the subassemblies you could insert into the product. On the right-hand side here, what we have is a list of all the subassemblies that are included in this product already. So I want to go to the opening splitters, and you'll see that we have 4 different splitters here, one for face frame and one for frameless cabinets. We have a horizontal and a vertical. Horizontal opening splitter is going to divide your opening from left to right. Vertical opening splitter is going to divide your openings vertically from top to bottom. I want to do this from left to right, so I will say add. And now that it's added into my product, you'll see that I've got an option here to use pick corners. What this is going to do is this is going to, by picking 2 points, I'm going to be able to determine the width, the height, as well as my origin for this subassembly. So whenever we select an item to get to our right-click sub menu, we want to make sure that we have the proper item selected. All right, it's very subtle, but if I had that selected, I have the upper 2 doors selected right now, and if I right-click on my use pick corners, it's not as intuitive as you would think to where the use pick corners would be what I'm changing right now. What I would be changing is my upper 2 door on accident. So very important step here is to make sure that you have selected what you want to right click and then modify. So I'm going to say pick corners here. And what this subassembly needs to know is where is the bottom left corner of my opening and where is the top right corner of my opening. And there, I've just told it where that's at. And I know that I'm going to want the same thing on the bottom. So while I'm in here, I'm going to add 1 more splitter. Now I could do the same thing here and right click and add, or I could take this and I could copy this subassembly and it will give me another one inside of this list. So even though I've copied it and it's coming in with its own dimensions, I can still tell this to go someplace else. So again, I'm right clicking, highlighting my subassembly, right clicking, and now I'm going to say pick corners, and I'm going to tell it where this other opening is. The bottom left, the top right of that opening, and it has determined that it is a different size, and it is also determined that it's also supposed to be in a different location. So now I could say okay and okay again, and it's going to draw by default. It's going to split these openings up into 3 different openings. If you're familiar with product starters, the product starters will call these bays, but both product starters and the subassembly opening, or product starters and the vertical splitter, or the splitters here, both refer to the first bay and the first opening as the leftmost and the topmost opening. So to access this splitter's prompts, I want to select my subassembly prompts. I have a tool command set up on the tool strip here. And whenever I select my subassembly, a part inside of that subassembly, it asks me, do you want to modify this individual part, or do you want to modify or make modifications to the entire subassembly? It says, select yes to view the nested subassembly prompts, the single part. Select no to view the parent subassembly, the entire part, or the entire subassembly. So I'm going to say no, because I want the entire one. I'm going to change this from 2 openings to, or from 3 openings to 2, and I'm going to put some different inserts inside of there. Now that I've changed my horizontal openings to 2, I could go to my opening 1 here and select what I want in the interior. Again, my opening 1 is going to be the leftmost because it's horizontal. And in here, I want to go ahead and put an adjustable shelf. On the right-hand side, I want to go ahead and put a, let's go ahead and put that trellis in there for a wine rack. And I'm not going to make any modifications to that. I'm just going to let it do what it does automatically. And here I will say, okay. And that do its thing. All right, so now we've got some wine slots or some cutouts in there, and they're concealed, so you could keep whatever you could fit inside of there. You could; those are also modifiable to change different sizes. We're not going to touch on that subassembly though. And you see on the left-hand side here, we have an adjustable shelf. We could remove that shelf if we need to, if we wanted to store larger things in there. Now down here on the bottom, you see that my second subassembly didn't show up. So what I want to do is I want to go in and take a look and make sure that it's even in the list. And if not, then I need to make sure that I get it added in there. And that's probably because I copied it. Calculator, oh, subassemblies. All right, so it's telling me that I've only got that one horizontal opening splitter. All right, bummer, but not a big deal. Come in here and add another one all over. And there, now you see that it's picking up the dimensions that I put in there already. Now that's weird. I don't trust that. I'm going to do this all over anyways, just because I can and it's easy. All right, now that I've reselected those and placed them, I'll say okay here again. All right, and this will be the same process. Wash, rinse, repeat. Instead of selecting my shortcut over here, I'm going to show you where that selection is inside of the interface. And if we go to our modify tile down here at the bottom, I don't know what everybody else calls these. I call these 5 buttons down here tiles because they're stationary. And I call these everything that these tiles access, I call all of these windows because they slide open and everything above them stays above, everything below stays below. So for the course of our demonstration here, I'm going to call these tiles just so we know what we're all talking about. I'm going to go to my modify tile. I'm going to modify subassembly. And at the bottom of that list, you'll see that you have show subassembly prompts. So if I select that, that does the exact same thing as that shortcut there. I'll select my part. And again, I want to say no because I want the parent subassembly. And here I will change my openings to 2 again. And this time on opening 1, I'm going to leave that blank, and opening 2, I'm going to put some dividers on the inside of there. So because I've got the dividers in there, I can't access those prompts directly. What I need to do is I need to draw that and then do another subassembly prompt to those dividers. And it'll come in with a fixed shelf and have dividers above and below it. And what I want to do is change my prompts, my subassembly prompts for that also to remove that divider. And I'm going to go ahead and add additional dividers inside of there. So again, subassembly prompt, select a part inside of that subassembly that you're modifying. And here, oh, I said no. Oops. This time I want to say yes because it's the nested subassembly for the shelf with dividers. Okay, so in here, I'm going to turn this to 0 and I'm going to change my dividers to 4, and that will give me 5 equal slots inside of those dividers. Save, yes, okay, okay. All right, and now on the left-hand side, what I want to add is I want to add a rollout, but I want a rollout that's called a subassembly that's called one rollout. There's two different rollout subassemblies. There's one that's called rollouts with an S on the end, and there's one that's called one rollout. That is the one that I want. So to drop that inside of here, what I'm going to do is do the same process with my splitters. And this time I'm just going to select this bottom half with my pick, or the left half with my pick quarters. That didn't slip. There we go. Okay, so again, I could right click, select subassemblies. From subassemblies, I will go to a different category called subassembly inserts. And under subassembly inserts, the subcategory of doors and drawers, and here I will scroll down to one rollout. Right click, add. And while this comes in with its dimensions already there, I want to do the same thing here. I want to tell this to go somewhere else and adhere to different sizes. So I'll right click, select pick corners, select my bottom left of the opening and top right of the opening, and just say okay. Now you'll see in here, quick note, you'll see in here that I'd have some text that is red and some text that is black. Now this is the same as edit design data, where if it's in red, it has a formula associated with it. If it's in black, it is hard valued in. And we'll be going into our edit design data to make this fully parametric. Because if I try to change the size of this, like I said, I want this to be able to go into any other project and have everything about this be parametric. So when I do that, I'm going to want all of this stuff that's hard value to have a formula associated with it. I'm going to make this a 6-inch drawer, and I want to make sure that we have a bump out here or a spacer so that we could have our cabinet pull out. So I'm going to select my subassembly, if it lets me, my subassembly prompt. And again, it's going to say, do you want the standard wood box or do you want the parent subassembly of the rollout? I want the rollout. And over here on the right-hand side of our subassembly prompts, you'll see that we have a selection for rollout spacer left and rollout spacer right. If my right side was hiding behind a hinge, I would also want to include that one. But since it's sitting on a divider, I don't need to have one on this. For the height of my subassembly, I'm just going to call this a 6-inch box. And okay, there we have it. We have 4 different subassemblies hidden behind 2 different openings. And we have our oven inside of there. And if we want to check if there's anything we're missing, we could go back to our picture over here and see, did I just meet all of my requirements? Well, no, I didn't. I have a cutout that needs, the center of that cutout hole needs to be 5 inches off the edge of that product by minimum. All right, so This will be up to however you do it in the shop. Some shops don't even have an oven back to begin with. Some shops will put a big old cutout. Some will do exactly what it needs, or depending on the depth, I have seen shops even put that junction box inside of the cabinet. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a cutout on the back edge of that. So a neat little thing I wanted to show yesterday, but didn't really have time. So we can add a cutout inside of here, and I'll do it the right way before I show you the other shortcut that I had in mind. I'm going to draw my part in 2D, draw my back. It's in my tool strip here. I'm going to draw my back in 2D. And then what's going to launch is an interface that's going to tell us all of the parts that are inside of the subassembly that I just selected. If you're ever curious about why there's sometimes parts and why there's only one part in here, that's because this is going to show you a list of what's inside of the subassembly that includes the part that you just selected. I selected the back, so it's going to show me everything that's inside of my carcass subassembly. Down here at the bottom, I've got two selections. I've got a list of my parts, and I've got 2D machining tools. I want to select 2D machining tools here. I'm going to select routing tools from my window options there, and that slides open to reveal a list of tools. All of these tools are going to be the tools that are inside your primary tool file. Whatever your primary tool file is, that's what you're going to see here. So I know that my border cutout is set to have the tool 101, cut that out. So that's the tool that I'm going to use here. I'll select my tool 101. I want to go to a depth of 0.75. If I don't enter anything in here, it's going to pull this depth that is in this column right here, which is your default depth. All of these are set by default by your tool file tech whenever we hand this over to you, the client. Going to select right. And you know what? I'm not even going to draw this. I'm just going to come down here, and I'm going to draw a square cutout and use this feature. So I know that this is where my mouse is. I know that that's where it's supposed to go, but many times we just take educated guesses, right? And it's like, well, let's see what this does. Here you see that it inserted a green cutout. If I hover over this, it'll tell us the information about this layer. This is saying that it's a route, and it's going to a Z value of 0.75. It's using right side compensation, and the tool that's being used is 101 with a ramp. There's our ramp, and the rest is our route. The magenta will tell you how deep that route is going. If we look over here, we can see that I've got 0.75, 0.75, I've got a notch. Okay, so I've got stop dados and lock dados set inside of my drawing. That's what this is telling me. And you'll see that this red is the drill holes. All right, so from here, what I'm going to do is tell this to, I want to select my part and update current part and redraw product. And what this is going to do, it's going to put a cutout in the bottom left-hand corner of our cabinet here. And like I said, I know that that's the incorrect place. That's not where I want it to be. Come on now, you can do it. All right, so now to move this, I can just simply go back into my drawing. So long as your 2D parts tools and your parts list is open, and you could come back into your drawing. You don't need this drawing to be open, it helps. You don't need this drawing to be open, but you could come back into here immediately and make that movement and put this wherever you want this to be at. So I'm gonna move this over here, because that's a little more accurate of where that location is supposed to be. So now if from here, I just said to update current part and redraw product, it will draw that in the correct spot. Before I do that, what I'm going to show you is something that I've just recently started playing with some other custom tools. If I take this cutout and type in B for block, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a block and I'm going to save this drawing. And I'm just going to call this something generic, cutout. And I have my settings here set to specify on screen and specify on screen with my objects. So I'll say okay and select my objects here. And I want everything that was created there. So now you see that I've got a block there. Once I have that block, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I save my drawing. And now that that drawing is saved, I can take this block, drag it right over here. Come on. And drop it into my tool palettes. If you use tool palettes, this is great. If you don't use tool palettes, this might be something to look into. I've seen that Amy has been training a lot on these tool palettes. So this would be another area where you could use these. So what I've essentially done is I've used AutoCAD to save a cutout token, a machining token for me. So now I'm going to explode this because I don't need this to be a block. And now I've got my block back. I'm going to take this and update that all over again. And just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to drop in another cabinet over here and show you that I could now just drag my cutout onto any other part that doesn't have anything to do with this specific product, and it will be able to use those same cutout parameters that we had set up inside of there. So let's say, oh, I don't want appliances. Let's draw products. Let's go to something generic, base cabinets, one door base, place product. All right, dump that out there. Good Lord. So you could have a tool palette, a tab inside of your tool palettes just set up just for these specific functions. So in the long run, if you have all of these set up, it could save you a lot of steps inside of these 2D tools and parts lists. All right, so I'm going to redraw this side here. I'm going to say draw 2D part, and there's my side. And I'm just going to take this cutout here, drop it in there. And because it's a block, it won't be able to process. But if I explode it one time, it will go to the next level it'll generate at the next level. So with that, all I need to do is right click and update my current part and redraw that product. So just another quick tool to show you how to use these tool palettes and kind of access those tool palettes in different ways. And there's a cutout we can go to, and that will create the code just the same as having it done inside of our own product. So that's saved. You could use it, stretch it, modify it, do everything that you want. So I'm going to close out of these drawings. So a thing about tool palettes that you want to take note of is because this block is saved inside of this drawing right here that we're looking at, this specific drawing, because that block is saved inside of this as the source drawing, if this drawing disappears for any reason, this block will no longer be able to get accessed. It'll still look like it's here, but whenever you try to drag it into another product anywhere, it'll disappear. So if you ended up purging your database and your factory file and moving projects, if this file ever gets deleted, then everything associated it will get deleted also. So quick sidetrack. Now let's get back on point. I'm going to get this product out of there and the erase. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to make this product parametric. So like I said, we want to be able to insert this into another project whenever we need to. All right, so what I want to do is I want to come to my edit design data. And inside of our edit design data, we'll see very clearly that what is hard valued and what is not. If you didn't know already, like I mentioned before, anything that is red inside of your edit design data will have a formula associated with it. Anything that is black is what you will get inside of your text field also. So again, hard value, hard coded, hard numbered, whatever you want to. So Lenny says we're going to stomp on a formula. You know, I like that terminology because it just gives emphasis that you're doing a lot. Whenever you type over this, you're doing a lot more than just entering a number. You are removing a formula. So what we want to do is we want to add a formula. So here we could see that my width and my height needs to be changed. So I have dimensions, or I have these values already available to me. So I'm going to use this base 2-door to drive my opening splitter here on the bottom, and then my upper 2-door will be my upper splitter here. Now, even though they're the same, all I would have to do is just drag that value down, and now those are formula driven. So on the top height here, I'm going to do a Control-C, Control-V right over that. For my base 2-door, I'll do the same thing, Control-C, Control-V right over that. I want these to be interchangeable. I want that to be 6 inches no matter what. But for my width here, I want this width to reference first my inside width. And then I want to subtract whatever my division is in there. I know that it's 0.75, and I want that to evaluate itself. So I'm saying to take that inside width, subtract that division thickness, and then divide that entire number by 2. Well, that wasn't right. Global inside width minus 0.75 divided by 2. That's not showing up correct. Let me back up here. Let me come back to that. Am I talking correctly? Left, right, okay. Then it's my formula. I've got my inside width. That is correct. It's got to be correct. And it's 0.75. All right, divided by 2. All right, and for my location here, I'm just going to grab these and pull them down. I want these to be on the inside of that. And then I want to use the front for this, and that's what it was. Somebody just chimed in. Jag, thank you. Thank you. What Jag said was I typed in 75075 instead of 0.75. So that's where my number was off to begin with. All right, and for the Z origin, these are always going to be on these bottom 2 are always going to be in this location. And then for my single fixed shelf, I'm going to want to use this formula here. And I will want to add, I'm just going to say 0.75. If you want to get into how to search for and add specific prompts that are directly related to materials, that would be a different session than this. But what I want to do here is I want to take this and replace it with that. All right, so right now we have everything that is, well, not that. Let's keep that. My rollout, I want to stay standard. Let's say that I'm a shop that we order everything at the correct at a certain depth. So I'm going to leave that as a depth, and no matter what we change our depth to, it's going to keep that unless it reaches a smaller amount. So here I will say save. And all of those changes I made were at the local level up here. I didn't have to go into any of my subassembly files to make any changes for that. So here we'll save, close, and redraw. And like I said at the beginning of this session, I should have changed this to 2D wireframe, because now you get to sit all together and watch this draw a little slower than we would like it to. Okay. And our next step would be maybe you have categories, custom categories already set up inside of your your library. If you don't, what we would want to decide is, where do we want this product to live? For me, I'm going to put this just right here inside of this same one that we created here. So frameless appliance cabinets, and then I'm going to save it inside of this category. But first, what I want to do is I want to grab a picture of this cabinet, because I also want my own image to show up down here whenever we go to select it. So I am going to isolate this cabinet by typing isol and select my cabinet. There it is. I'll take my snipping tool, create a new one, grab that guy, and I want to save this to where I'll be able to find it. And I want to also make sure that I save this as a JPEG. So I'm going to throw this in my pictures folder here, and I'm going to say that this is, can I say this is JPEG from here? Yeah, I can. All right. We'll put today's date. Heck, why not? All right, so now I've got that image saved. It's in a little livelier of a color. If you wanted to see that there are specific subassemblies inside of there, you probably could have done this with a 2D wireframe image. For me, this is what I want to do. All right, so now, before we save this, we commit this to the library, we want to run this through the acid test, right? We want to make sure that this is going to change appropriately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this from the front direction, because the width is all that I'm concerned about here. And I'm going to see if this grows, and then I'm going to shrink it back to what I know to be an incorrect dimension. All right, so product prompt. Oh, you know what? We didn't change our trellis up here on the top. So this is a part of the acid test. I almost blew right by this and would not have given it a second thought to make sure that that changed. All right, so inside of my first horizontal rollout, I'm going to show that nested subassembly, or show that subassembly file, and look at those subassemblies. All right, so these are already being driven by those, so we should be good then. So product prompt. Gonna make this grow 3 inches will be sufficient for me. You could get a little extreme if you wanted to. Still don't know what this is. All right, so my width, I'm going to say is 37, and say okay. And now in doing that, my sides, my panel here should change also, with giving me larger reveals on the left and the right hand side. And there we go. It's parametric. I know that the depth is going to work also, just from experience, and to save time, we're not going to test that. So I will cut this back down. To where I started with the 34 inches, and we will commit this 34-inch wide cabinet back to our library. And when saving something back to your library, what we want to keep in mind is what we are saving to the library is all of the settings that we have selected here. All right, so any prompts that we have turned on or off, any values that we have created, that is what we're saving back to our library. So that's one of the reasons we are not changing this to have a finished left side or an applied panel or anything else. We want this to be versatile, that we force our engineer to decide what they're going to put in there on an insert, or whenever they insert it into a project. So this is good. I am going to go to modify tile and select modify products. And near the bottom of what's visible here, we will see save product to library. Whenever I select this and select my product, another interface will pop up that's going to ask me to navigate to where I want to save this at. So again, we already looked at that in advance. So I don't want it to be in face frame. I want it to be in frameless. I want it to be in my appliance cabinets. And I'm going to call this, just so I know, I'm going to call this a 34 wide oven. I'm going to call this an LG oven. And here at the bottom section here, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a line indicating that this is a different interface. And next to category name, it tells me where I'm saving it and the file name that I'm saving it to. So when I like it, I say save. It'll tell me that it's saving some subassemblies at the same time. And now I could go into my list here. Oh, because we already looked at it. Now I could see that it's already in there, 34 LG oven. Now, what about the picture that I created? To assign a picture to this, what I want to do is I want to go to my Toolbox setup options, Microvellum options, and navigate to our Database Explorer by going to Utilities, Database Explorer. And from our drop downs here, we want to navigate to our part or our product. So I'm going to Imperial Component Library, Product, and you'll see that this is all of the same cabinets, all of the same categories that we have inside of our interface in there. And where I placed this was inside of the frameless appliance, and there's my 34 wide LG oven. What I want to do is right click that selection, and in here we can say replace, set new image. And from here, I have JPEG selected because that's what I saved this as, and I'm going to browse for a new image. And I know that that's in my pictures. And there's the one that I saved, 1028, open, and save new selection. And now it doesn't show right away, but if I click away from it and then click back on it, you'll see that you've got the new image in there. You might be a little more picky than I am, and you may not want that cursor in that image because it's going to be in there all the time. So you would just go back and repeat that process. So here I could close out directly from here and say, okay, close. And now we have in our list here, our product with our image of the cabinet that we just created. Now to really test this, what we would do is I'm going to go to the project yesterday, and I know for a fact that that room yesterday, or actually not project, the new room, and I know that I actually need a 33-inch wide cabinet and not a 34. So I want to, now that this is saved, I can exit out of here, close down, however you do it, and navigate to the new project or the alternate room that you were in. Oops. Let me just open it up. So there's our day 2. I have some placeholders on the ground here, and I'm just going to erase this. I don't need this. I already got this saved to the library also. All right, so there's my placeholders on the ground. So to insert my new product that I've created inside of here, I'm going to navigate to that draw tile and that category. There's my LG oven, right click, place product at a selected point. And because this is parametric, I don't need to know the size that my opening is there. All I want to do is double click inside of my width text box here. And this works for all of your text box. if you double click inside of it, you can have the opportunity to select 2 points to tell it how wide or how tall or how deep you want something to be. I'm using the width here, so I'm going to say that I want this to be in between those 2 points, and it's returned that, hey, that's 33 inches. Like, all right, well, our product's parametric. I'm good to go. And now we're going to have our product created. Inside of here, it's parametric. We could do whatever. If I needed a left end panel, I could have applied it right here. If I needed a right finished end or a right filler, I could have done all that here. If I needed to change a new oven, I mean, all of these, or put a different oven in there. Let's say they decided that they don't want to go with the LG anymore, or the LG is, on a two-month lead time. We could, this is all modifiable. I mean, we just go in and make those changes as necessary. So yeah, that was a quick stroll. Do we have any questions, Clay? It's Clay here. All right, so let's see.
Yep, I'm here. I think I don't think that we have any questions that have not been answered already that I can see.
Okay, great. Rod says, is this snippet clip essentially a raster image imported JPEG? Oh, I don't know how to answer that. I just know it's a JPEG because I changed it to a JPEG. What it would be is a PNG. Is a PNG rastered?
Yeah, it's not a vector image.
Mm-mm.
Yep. Looks like there was a question that just came in. Do you always use the left and front right to pick the subassembly location?
Excellent question. And the answer is no. It will depend on the subassembly and where that subassembly needs to be inserted. For example, our doors would need a different location. It would need to know the external because it's referencing the overall width. We would select our external points here from the left and the right. But it is a good practice to start from the bottom left and go to the top right, because you are getting your height and your width determined by doing that.
Awesome.
How do I know where to pick for each subassembly? That's a great question. That's the tough part. It's going to be practice. The great thing about this is you've got a couple of different, it's because it's so simple and you don't really need to understand the spreadsheet to do this. If you insert it wrong, you could go right back into your prompt and do it over. So you're not stuck to whatever you inserted the first time. So here, I'm going to go into my subassembly prompts. I don't know what that means. So inside of here, I could select new dimensions with using the pick corners if I wanted to from inside here. And you're going to be inside of this list. So once you pick those corners, you update it, you redraw it, and it's like, oh, it didn't work. All right, I'll go back in there and redo it. So I could select new location for this directly from here. So if I was wrong the first time, well, there's another opportunity for me to do it by coming in here.
All right, I don't think that there's any other questions that we haven't got to. Once again, Roman, thank you for joining us today and presenting that information for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely some great information for everybody to review, highlighting the power of what we can do with making custom products using those subassembly inserts and making things parametric. I really appreciate that you added that feature to today's lesson, helping us navigate that process.